Hey, what's up, you sexy bitches, and welcome back to the Weekly D. Today I have the awesome Teresa on with me. Teresa is also known as Polefiction on Instagram. You may recognize this name because she's super well known for her very unique style of heel work. We talk about her unique style amongst other things, so this is an episode that you do not want to miss out on. So without further ado, this is the Weekly D, because honey, if you ain't getting your D on the daily, you better at least be getting it once on the weekly.
If you're not getting any and you want some tea, then come and join Dan up on the Weekly D. It's the Weekly D.
Hey Teresa, thank you for joining me on my podcast. It's lovely to have you with me today. How are you doing?
Hi Dan, thank you. I'm really good, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. And I know you're in Argentina at the moment. So what's it like in Argentina at the moment?
Yeah, I'm on holiday because in August in Spain, everything is like completely closed and it's like 40 degrees every single day. And over here, it's a nice 13 degrees winter, sometimes rain, sometimes really cold. And I'm more of a cold person, so I'm good.
Oh, you actually enjoy it. So why on earth? So you're originally from Spain, right? So and
Yes.
then the little bit of English accent comes from your time that you spent in the UK studying. Is that correct?
Yeah, I used to go there every year to Manchester since I was born, basically, which is why I kind of learned it at the same time as Spanish.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's so cool. Because your
Yeah.
English is just like amazingly perfect. So it's almost, I remember when I first met you saying, "Oh, like, are you from the UK?" You were like, "No, I live in Spain." I was like so confused. So before we go into all of this and all these questions, can you give us a little rundown for anyone who's listening to this, maybe hasn't heard of you yet, and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
So my name is Teresa in Spanish, but Teresa, everything is fine. I say this
It sounds
because,
so horrible, doesn't it?
yeah.
It sounds so much nicer in Spanish. Teresa.
No,
Oh,
I'm
sorry,
really
we
used to
ruin
it.
everything.
I'm really, really used to it. So really don't worry. Everyone says it differently. So I'm okay with it now. And yeah, I'm a dancer and pole dancer originally from Madrid. Although right now I am in Argentina, but that's just because my boyfriend Juan is from Argentina. And so we're just here visiting his family on holiday. And yeah, I've danced all my life basically like many, many different styles. And then I kind of discovered pole dance in my dance studio and I started taking pole classes and then mixing it up with other different dance styles that I do. So I've been pole dancing for, I think, about 12 years now.
Nice.
And yeah, other than that, I'm just here on
Yeah.
holiday enjoying life right now.
Lovely. So you were saying a minute ago about everything in Spain is closed. What did you mean? What you mean literally closed? Like
I
the
mean,
studios are
like
closed?
a lot of studios close the full month of August, and actually a lot of things close August. Not like shops or anything, but yeah, classes stop, dance classes mostly stop. I think there's some open studios, but mostly because there's no one there in Madrid in August. Well, yes, tourists, but the people who live in Madrid, everyone rushes away from the city because it's unbearably hot. No one wants to be
S-
there.
But yeah, so you mentioned obviously the studios closed. So they not have air conditioning in the studios?
Yes, but I think there's just not enough people in Madrid to justify keeping everything open. And people want to
Oh, I
go on
see.
holiday, including instructors and owners. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually quite a good idea. I think for you as well in Madrid and stuff, you must get so many people leaving because all the tourists are coming. Is it just
Yeah.
unbearable with tourists everywhere?
Well, it is if you go to like the city center and that kind of thing, it's ridiculous. And
Mm,
Christmas as well, it's just really insane. But I don't mind it that much because where I live, it's kind of quiet. So it's just really nice. Yeah, I
nice.
don't suffer it.
And you are dating a pole dancer, Juan,
I
who
am.
is quite a famous pole dancer. A lot of people are probably following him on Instagram. What is it like dating a pole dancer? And actually, how did you meet? Like, what was the first time that you met?
So he is from Argentina. And when we met, he was actually in a circus company. So he was already pole dancing, but he actually comes from Chinese pole, which is why
Right.
his like Instagram name is Juan Palotino because Palotino means Chinese pole. So now you
Wait,
know.
hold on. Oh, his last name isn't Palacino?
No.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me? I
You
literally,
know,
well,
a lot
actually,
of
what's
people think
hilarious,
that.
I've been actually saying Palcachino because I've not read it correctly, obviously. So it's Palocino. Oh my God.
Yes.
This has just
Yes.
ruined everything for me. Oh, so that's not his last name.
No.
Wow.
His
Okay.
last
So
name
he
is
was,
actually the same as mine, Rodriguez, which is just boring last name.
but I guess that's because it's quite a well-known, like
Yeah.
Spanish last name, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's good. At least when you one day end up getting married, you won't have to change your last names.
Oh, we don't even do that in Spain, so that wouldn't even be a thing. That's a
Oh,
very
really?
British thing to do, like changing your last name. People don't do that in Spain.
Oh, that is so funny. I thought that was like an international thing. How funny.
No.
So, and you and Juan have been together for how long?
We've been together for, I think it's about 6 years and a half now. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
And we met because, so he was in this circus company and again, he was doing some pole dance, but mostly Chinese pole. And so they were touring. They wanted to come to Europe and like teach a couple of classes and just train in different places. And they came to one of the studios where I was currently teaching at the moment. And they did kind of this weekend of workshops thing. I had no idea who any of them were because he wasn't even like well known at all then. He barely knew what Instagram was.
Oh,
So
bless him.
yeah. And I remember I was talking to my students and we were like, oh, there's these workshops happening this weekend. It would be fun if we all like go together and just, we had no idea what we're going to, but let's just go and have fun. And, you know, it's Sunday, there's nothing to do. And so, yeah, that's how we met because I took his pole class. He was teaching more Chinese pole stuff applied to pole dance.
Hmm.
And that's how we met. And it was kind of like very instant, super attraction. And it just kind of built up from there.
Oh,
And
that's so
yeah,
awesome. And
yeah.
where did you say these workshops were? They were in Madrid.
Yes, they were in Madrid. Because that's the
Nice.
first place they visited. And then they kind of continued visiting different countries. And we had this kind of magical, I like to think that the universe wanted to see us together because I had a trip booked to Amsterdam, which I had booked ages and ages ago, months before. And it turns out that the circus company was also going to Amsterdam on the exact same dates. So we met in Amsterdam again. And then he came to visit me again in Madrid. So it was kind of like just the magic of the universe, like
Yeah,
guiding us along.
100%. Everything that's meant to
Yeah.
be will be, right? And that
Yeah.
clearly was meant to be. And
Yeah.
what's it like dating a pole dancer? I think I've said this to you before, but I can't imagine my husband pole dancing. I genuinely think I'd want to murder him. Like, I think us training together would be so stressful. So what's it? I mean, you are both very different styles, right? But you could do some tricks too. I've seen you doing your flips and stuff, so I know you do some stuff like he does. But what's it
Yeah.
like? Do you ever clash when it comes to work?
Oh, well, I mean, not exactly. I mean, I think that's kind of a something that people think in general. Like, if you do the same thing as your partner, it's going to be like repetitive or boring or something. I really enjoy it just because we can really understand each other's issues in teaching and things that might happen to you in class. And then when we have to go for workshops, we go together and maybe we both teach workshops or when we have to compete. So it's really easy to kind of be understanding of what we each do and to support each other. But then when it comes to actually training, you know, people might be surprised, but we rarely train together because it's
Okay.
really, really, really hard. It's very hard. We have extremely different styles, like you said. And yeah, I used to be a lot more of a trickster. In fact, the first times that I came to Argentina, there was one time that I stayed here for 8 months and I was taking all of his classes and I really enjoyed that. But when it comes to making something between the both of us or creating a sequence or something, he wants to go in one direction, I want to go the completely opposite way. And he's like, and why don't you just jump and then flip and then do this? And I'm like, have you seen me? I don't do any of that. I dance. So just let me do my waves and my twirls and you can do your flips. So we do create things together sometimes. And we've even done like a couple of performances together, but it's been so hard to mix our styles. But we're getting better at it slowly. It's becoming like less of a stressful situation
Well,
slowly.
it just must be so hard because they're just so different. But I kind of like that. I think actually, if Mitch, for example, one day did want to pole dance, it would have to be that we were just doing completely different styles, and then it could maybe work. So we didn't have that clash. But yeah, I love that you both pole dance together. I think it's kind of cool. Do you, even though you don't pole dance together and train together, do you go to the studio together? He'll do his thing, you do
Yeah.
your thing. So that you do a lot, yeah?
Yes, we go together, or maybe sometimes we even have similar teaching styles. So he's in one room and I'm teaching another class in another room.
Okay.
And yeah, we'll go together, but I'll have my headphones in, he'll have his thing. And sometimes we interrupt each other, like, look at me, look at what I just did, come watch it, or come video me and tell me if this looks good. But then otherwise we kind of each do our thing.
So these fancy videos I see of you where the camera's coming in and out, that's him.
Oh, always him.
Always him. He's so well trained. He's so well trained.
Exactly. Like I try to do the same for him, but mine just don't come out as nice. I do what I can.
Yeah, I feel like I try to do it, but like, the in and the out thing, I don't maybe do it enough. Like I don't go in enough or out enough, but yeah, I try my best anyway. And when I first met the both of you together, I don't know if you remember this, it was at Pole Theatre, and
Yes,
he was
I remember.
competing and I was competing, and you had to be our translator at the time. I don't even remember, but
Yeah.
he didn't speak any English. How's his English going, or is he still no English?
Oh, no.
No English.
He's just very set on the fact that he will be able to get through life with people making an effort to understand him rather than him being the one to make the effort to learn English. And it's going quite well. And just because we always watch films and shows and everything in English, so he's used to listening to it. He can understand most of it.
Okay.
It's just getting the actual words out, which he struggles with. So thankfully for him, I'm always there to translate. Like when he does workshops and everything, I'm always tagging along, translating. But yeah, it's not really improved.
Oh,
too much.
bless him. Well, the thing is, I can't even laugh because English people, well, you know what English people are like. We make zero efforts to talk any other language because I said this when I go to Germany, I always notice this, like no one will, I would probably have to learn it if no one spoke English. So I would be forced to have to learn at least a little bit. But it tends to be like, even when you're trying to learn a little bit, they'll automatically speak to you in English because they just know English and they know it off by heart and it's so easy for them. So people just default to English for me, which is great. And I love that. Makes my life a hell of a lot easier. But yeah, so we were talking about your styles being very, very different. And when I first ever followed you, which was years ago now, Polefiction, which is your Instagram name, was known for tricks, actually. That's actually the main reason I originally started following you, is because you were doing tricks, and obviously that's my kind of thing.
It's okay if you unfollow me if you don't like it anymore, Dan.
No, people shouldn't unfollow you because you're still doing really cool stuff. That's the reason why I still follow you. And you do still post tricks sometimes. But that I remember there was a point, I can't remember, I felt like lots of people were sharing your stuff and you were sharing quite interesting, cool tricks. And that was when I came to know you. That was quite a while back now. So I think that was probably when you started to become quite a well-known name. And since then, your style has completely changed. So when did that transition happen, and what prompted it? Was there something that happened, or?
I'm trying to remember, but I don't I don't think that there wasn't any particular thing that made it happen. I think I've just always liked to follow whatever my fancy is. And when I started, it was just so different doing tricks from the dancing that I was used to doing, and just being upside down and doing all of that stuff. If you try to do that in dance, then you will need someone to lift you and do those things for you. And I never had that. So I was like, yes, now I get to lift myself and I get to do all of these crazy things. And then I don't know if I got bored of it. Might sound a little bit too much, but I did kind of get bored of just doing tricks. And it slowly started getting more For example, focusing on the transitions between the moves and trying to make that part more interesting. And then it just started getting more and more dancey. And I still do tricks, but I just do them really low. I incorporate them into low flow stuff. So I really like things that involve handstands and just things that I can do. Like I can dance into them and out of them. I don't have to climb up and do them.
Right.
But there wasn't like one thing that made me go there. I just usually try to really listen to what it is that I feel like doing in my training in general, because otherwise if I'm just forcing myself to do tricks just because, oh, that's what I do, so I should keep doing that, I should keep training that, and I'm forcing myself to do it, I feel like that's where I might fall out of love with it.
Right.
So I really, really try to honor whatever it is I'm attracted to doing. And I think that's better as well, because people can probably tell when you're doing something more authentically just because that makes you happy. And so if I enjoy choreographing and low flow and edge work now instead of going up the pole, then that's just what I do. And hopefully people will still like it and still continue to watch it. And if not, that's okay for me. But I'm happy doing what I like.
You mentioned about becoming bored of it. I can totally relate to that, because I feel like there's been times where I've just... Yeah, I think that's actually when I first ever started dancing heels, because I was just a bit like, I'm so bored of just doing trick after trick after trick. I don't know, it just, the fun, because I feel like for me, it was just like, I knew there was only a certain level of tricks that I would get to. Like, I've always known I was never going to be doing, Juan and, Dimitri level tricks. I just knew that my body was never going to want to do that, nor did it feel safe for me to do that. I'm 34, I can't be doing this shit. But I'm just like, I feel like I kind of hit my peak of the kind of tricks that I was doing. And I just thought, well, what can I do to spice up? And yes, actually, what you mentioned as well, the fun transitions, I felt like around that time, that kind of saved me a lot, because I do love a nice, fun, different transition. They're cool. But I wanted something just completely different, I think. And so would you say that was kind of what happened to you? You just wanted something a little bit more fresh?
Maybe, but I don't think it was like a decision, like, oh, I'm bored, so let me switch it up. I just think it kind of happened naturally. Also, because of my dance background, I started getting more and more into making choreographies, but then somehow they ended up including less and less tricks and just more and more dance. And I think I just loved that so much that I just kept going with that. And it probably just bled into the rest of what I do, because I was making these choreos and I was finding so many possibilities close to the floor just to be able to do things. For example, for my students, maybe if someone's a beginner and I'm not giving them like a choreo that has all of these aerial tricks.
Yeah.
So I was finding these really interesting things that I could do closer to the floor. And I just got so into that's how it happened. But it wasn't really on purpose. It just kind of naturally happened.
And am I correct? Right. I'm hoping I've not got this wrong, but years and years ago, when obviously I first started following you, am I correct in thinking that a lot of the tricks you used to do them wearing trainers?
Yeah, probably. But at the beginning, I was very much barefoot, like most people, just because that's what everyone did and I didn't question it. And then I started putting on trainers just because I like my shoes.
Yeah, I've noticed you dance a lot in trainers, right?
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's actually a lot more comfortable because I've kicked the pole so many times. I don't know. Haven't you kicked the pole time and time again?
My right toe, it's a funny story actually. These really pretty points where people like go onto the tops of their toes and they really point them over and put the weight on their feet. I can do that on my right foot, but I can't like pull my full body weight on it because I kicked the pole so hard once doing a flip that my right side big toe, I must have fractured it or something. But yeah, now it just does not have the same movement in it.
Oh,
so
no.
Yeah, I feel you on
that could have been saved with wearing shoes. Maybe that would never happen. Yeah, and I mean, it's not just because of that. That's a thing. I do put them on because I don't like kicking people and the pole and the wall and stuff, which has happened to me a lot. I've broken toes before. But also I just really like my shoes aesthetically.
Yeah.
And because I'm used to dancing in my shoes with like hip hop and that kind of thing, and it just made sense for me to wear them. I mean, most people, for example, if you go to the gym or something, you wouldn't take your shoes off and train barefoot. So it's interesting that we do that in pole.
Yeah.
And I'm not really sure how that became such a big thing, but I just like my shoes. They're nice, they're pretty.
When did you add the heels to the shoe repertoire? When did the heels start coming in?
Maybe, maybe about 8 years ago, something like
Okay.
that. I may be wrong, but I remember at first, probably this, I'm sure a lot of people can relate because when I started 12 years ago, when I used to see people dancing like super, super sexy in heels, and I'm not talking about like Felix Kane doing all of her tricks in heels, but more like, around the floor and being sensual in heels. I used to think like, but she's not doing any tricks. What's the point of this? I don't understand it. Why? No, I'm going to be all trickster and like that. And yeah, I'm kind of embarrassed about that but I think a lot of people can probably
I think I've
relate
probably said
at
the
the
same at
time.
some point. It's not until you're actually doing it that you're like, A, this is really hard, but B, this is actually really fun.
Yes. Yeah, I remember. Well, actually, I don't remember. I think the first person who I was interested in that way was Alethea Austin. And then more people started becoming like really popular. I remember Olga Koda suddenly started being like, her videos are everywhere.
Oh,
And I was
yeah.
like, I've never seen anything like this. I need the shoes. I need to try this. And that's when I kind of really started falling in love with heels. And then you just can't get me off them.
What would you describe your style as? So we're going to talk about edgework in a moment because I want you to explain to anyone who's watching or listening to this what edgework is. But what would you, without saying just edgework, because I don't really class your style as only edgework, 'cause you do lots of different stuff.
No.
But if you could describe your style in heels, what would you describe it as?
Oh, that's really
I
hard.
know. I literally, as I said, I thought this is a really hard question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
That's really, really hard. I have no idea how to describe it. Well, I always consider myself a dancer above everything else. So it really depends on what I'm listening to because my style will try to adapt to what it is that I'm dancing to. But yeah, I keep it low flow. So I'm not like an aerial tricks in heels sort of person. That's not me. So I'm more dancey with my heels and I love anything that's super twirly. So I just like coming up with interesting, twisty, twirly pathways. And other than that, I do try to combine my dancing with my heel stuff or with my pole stuff. So I try to use a lot of like isolations and upper body movement and that kind of thing. I don't know if that's a very good description, but I don't know how
that
to.
was it's a really hard question to answer, especially when you have a style that's very unique and very different. Not many people are doing it. So, no, I think it describes it quite well. And one thing that's really kind of, like I said, I've been pole dancing for a long time. You've been pole dancing for a long time. So when I first heard about you, it was through your tricks videos. And now people are more finding out about you through your heels videos and through your edgework videos. Now, people might be listening to this and thinking, what the hell is edgework? They might not even know what it is. So before we go into the edgework talk, can you describe what edgework is? Like, how would you describe it?
So for me, edgework is a technique in which you use all of the different sides and edges of the shoe, of the stripper shoe or the platform against the floor. So for example, typically we listen to point your toes all the time. And you feel like that's the only possible foot position that your foot can be in. So you might either be standing with your shoe flat on the floor or you'll be like on point on the tip of the shoe. But with edgework, you can use the outside edge, the inside edge, you can flex, you can drag it, slide it, pivot on it. So it's a really interesting and kind of liberating way to really bring more attention to the shoes because you're not just wearing the shoes, you're actually using the shoes as an apparatus, like as the focus of the technique that you're doing. And it's just a really, like it has so many possibilities of ankle movements. It's a really fun, interesting style.
It's funny you said about I was literally just about to say it, and you said it right at the end about the ankles. I find it to be very ankly. And
Yeah.
you must have to have, like, to do it properly, like you must have to have such strong ankles to do so, because these ankles are like all over the place, and obviously you've got your body weight on top of that as well, so it's, yeah, it's intense. Would you describe it as quite ankly?
Yes, it is really intense, but mostly it's about um, just the technique of doing it properly, because sometimes you can see these things and yes, it might look really fancy and complex, but people think, oh, it's just flexing the foot and putting it on the floor, like I can do that. But again, like you said, you don't really actually have your body weight on your foot when you're doing these things. It's really your arms that are doing a lot of the work so that you don't hurt
Hmm.
yourself. But yes, you definitely need a lot of control and stability in the ankles. So there's a lot of conditioning that I do for the muscles around the ankles, and I did ballet for how many 14 years. So I did like work on my feet and my ankles and my legs a lot, and that is super super
Yeah.
important because you don't want to snap your ankle or roll it or break it, etc.
And edge work is something that has caused a lot of, I don't know how to describe this, not controversy, because I won't, it's very much a Marmite situation. People,
It's like a hate it or love
exactly,
it.
people either hate it or they
Yeah.
love it. And as you know, people have posted about it, and there's been people talking on Tuesday topics about it and about what they think about it and stuff. And one thing I will say is that everyone, when something new comes into our industry, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, people just hate it instantly before they even decide they love it. So actually, at
Yes.
first,
And then
and then
everyone
everyone
loves
loves
it.
it. And
Yeah.
actually, a perfect example of this, and I'm really intrigued to know if it was the same where you were, but um, exotic pole, or, heels pole, whatever we're going to call it now. Back when I first started, it was very much no one did that. Like, it was all tricks. And if you did that, it was like you were one of the minority. Whereas now everyone wants to do it. Everyone wants to dance in heels. Everyone wants different types of heels.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's got a massive collection of heels now. So, but everyone was anti it at the beginning, and it's so funny how over time it's developed.
Exactly.
So I definitely think that it's maybe one of those situations that maybe people will, choose that sheet, well, they really do like it. Why
Yeah, I think so
what
too.
Yeah, I don't dislike it. I dislike it on me. So for me personally, I I've seen people do it. I've played around with it. It looks terrible on me. However, and actually this is a good question. I dance in boots, and I feel like the boots gave me a disadvantage because I couldn't move my ankles as much.
Mm.
Actually, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
ask that as a question in a second. But I watch you do it, and I'm like, I like the way it looks on you, and I feel like you've got a certain line in your leg that it suits. And then I'll see some people who are doing it, air inverted quotes, professionally. They're promoting edge work. I'm not trying to be shady, by the way. I'm just saying, they're doing it at a level where they consider they can teach it. And I look and I think it doesn't look the same for me. It doesn't look as aesthetically pleasing. It can look so different on you as it does someone else. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what your thoughts are on that. Do you think the shoe makes the difference?
I mean, the shoe makes a difference of how comfortable it feels, because boots definitely restrict the movement, and of how far you can move your ankle. Sandals give you a lot more range of motion.
Yeah.
So I would always, always recommend sandals. You can do it in boots, especially if it's like the soft ones, maybe not the, what are they called? Like the
The,
plasticky
like,
vinyl.
PVC. Yeah. Hmm.
Yes, exactly. That's not
No.
ideal. But what you were saying about it looking, I mean, it is going to look different on everyone, but I wouldn't say it's because of your leg or your foot or anything. I mean, it's the same as anything in pole. You will probably see a lot of people, teaching pole, where you might even think like, okay, well, you are teaching it professionally, but I look at you and I don't think it looks like super perfectly amazing, like everything you're
Mm.
doing. So a lot of people will go into teaching things when they don't really know enough about it, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And so it's not about it looking good. I mean, yeah, you can like how something looks on you or dislike it, obviously, like anything, because everyone has a style and things that you think suit you or not. But I think it's more a thing about you actually need to learn it and practice it for it to look good. it's its own really, really big technique. And it's not like you're just going to do 3 ankle movements and think, oh, I'm doing edge work now, but look, it doesn't look good on me, so it doesn't suit me. It's more likely that maybe you you just have to learn how to do it first, and then it will start kind of clicking. So I think it's just about learning the technique really and finding the kinds of movements that suit you. Everyone has their own style. So I think everyone has the potential for doing it nicely.
And
so
have you had...
I'm sure you can do it then.
Do you know, I think it's my ankles would struggle with it, because even in boots where they're quite supported, at the end I'm like, and I've never ever posted any of it because I just watch it back and I'm like, oh God, it looks so bad. I actually did a funny video where I was like, oh, is this edge work? And that wasn't me trying to do it properly. But prior to that, I had tried to copy, I think it might have been one of yours or one of Rachel Rivera's videos. It was just this very simple, it looked so simple. I was like, why is that so hard? I was like,
it's all a lie.
It is all a lie. Honestly, you make it look very easy. I remember trying it and just thinking like, wow. But for me as well, it sounds stupid, but I feel like it takes, when I said about the leg and the lines, it takes a certain body type. I don't mean body types in size. I mean like the limbs. Like you're quite leggy, and your ankles are very flexible, and you're really good at waving your legs in a certain way, and your hips have got a really good range of motion. So those waves and the ankle movements, they look different on you. So I feel like it's just that my body type and my hip mobility and stuff, it holds me back. But yeah, I mean, I love how it looks on you. Now, what are your thoughts on people? I'm assuming you've had people come onto your page and say, oh, this is horrible or whatever, because what do you... Well, what do they say? What's normally the go-to thing that they say? Is it just, oh, this is horrible? Like, what sort of things do they say to you?
Yeah, like, it's ugly. Why would you do that? That's so horrible. I don't understand why you're doing this. How could you like this? That kind of thing. None of it has any reason behind it other than I'm not used to seeing that, so therefore it must be really bad.
Yeah, it's and they've taken their time out of their day to come to your page and be like, I don't like this. It's like, if you don't like it, just scroll.
And most of the time it's also just people that don't even follow you. It's someone who just literally ran into your video and had this impulse that, oh, I need to share my opinion because my opinion is going to make her see reason that she's doing something really disgusting. And thanks to my horrible comment, she is now going to fix her ways.
Oh, but don't you feel like that's just the internet in general at the moment? I feel like everybody wants to have something to say at the minute. And if they're not saying it on your Instagram page, they're saying it on their own Instagram page, or they're commenting in your comments or on their stories and tagging you. I'm so over it. I'm just kind of used to it now. So, but it must be really hard for you. What made you be like, no, actually, I'm going to keep going with this. I don't give a shit what they think because I think it looks good.
Well, I think partly I can't empathize with someone leaving an ugly comment on someone else's page, but I can empathize with seeing it and being like, I don't like that, that's ugly. Because I was also like at the beginning of my heels or my pole journey, I also only thought about, oh, your feet have always got to be pointed and that's like the way to go. So I used to be like that as well. And I'll always say that. I've changed my mind, thankfully, about so many things in pole. And so I can understand how you could look at it and think that's so weird or that's just not so nice. But just because you're not used to seeing it, I always think that we just normalize things by getting used to seeing them. With anything, even with fashion, like when a new sort of outfit trend, like, I don't know, bell-bottom pants are coming back in. And at first I was like, no, why are they coming back? I'm not ready for them to be back yet. And now I'm like, you know what? I've seen them enough on people that I'm like, oh, you know what? I do like them. So just being exposed to things is enough to make you accept it. So that's why I don't get offended by it at all. I mean, I don't care if people... I do care if people like it because obviously I want people to take classes with me. So I do need some people to like it. But I do it because I like it, and there are quite a few, like a niche of people that really, really, really likes it, and I'm content with that group of people really loving it. I don't need my things to be for everyone.
No.
So, when anyone's leaving a nasty comment, I'll just block them because I don't like that kind of thing. But other than that, as long as it's respectful, I don't give a damn if people like it or not. I like it. So,
Have you ever had any people come to your comments, like when you said about these nasty comments, or they've said, "Oh, this is ugly. Why would you do that?" Have you ever had any people that maybe were like not even necessarily friends, like even other professionals in the industry, people that you thought should probably not be commenting stuff like that? Do you know what I mean? Like people who have actually come on, like other famous pole dancers or anything, who have come onto your comments and been like, "Oh, Teresa, I don't really like this," or anyone that you've thought, "Why would they do that?" Has that ever happened to you?
no, I don't think so.
That's good.
I mean, maybe they've thought that or said it in private to someone else, but
Oh,
definitely not to
100%.
me, or, well, not that I can remember.
Yeah, of course. No,
No, I don't think that they've left it in my comments.
that's
No.
good. And when people do comment these horrible things, you're saying it doesn't bother. It's never bothered you.
I mean, it's at first maybe it. I mean, it bothers a little bit always when someone's saying something rude about you, but more in a way of like, why is this person, like, why are they so stupid? That's all.
Yeah.
I don't really take it
It's more
personally.
a case of like, why are they so
Yeah.
bothered enough to come onto my page and write
Yeah.
nasty things to me? I find that really odd. Oh, hey you. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to come on and tell you about one of our podcast sponsors. This podcast is sponsored by the Pole Circus. So if you've never heard of the Pole Circus before, the Pole Circus is an online showcase and competition which can be entered and watched by anyone from anywhere in the world. So long as you've got an internet signal, so long as you've got a computer or a TV to watch, you can watch this show and it's going to be amazing. It's on October the 22nd and the show is going to be freaking awesome. So make sure you check it out. They've got world-class judges judging this event. Yeah, it's just going to be super awesome. So make sure you check out the Pole Circus. You can find them on Instagram at the Pole Circus, but I'll also put a little link in the bio of this episode just so you can go and find out a little bit more about them. So make sure you check out the Pole Circus. So one thing that we did mention a minute ago that I'd like to go back to, because I really would love your input on this, not even just for Edgework actually, but on lots of different things. People teaching things that maybe they're not ready to teach it. Now I'm going to put it out there right now because anyone listening to this might be like, well, actually, I feel like you started teaching heels too early, and I can admit that I 100% did, because back then heels was very much new to us because everyone was kind of all getting back into. Everyone was like, oh, exotic, and we're all following Olga Koja, and we want to do all these kips and all these crazy kips and stuff. I felt that was the kip era was what really kind of got everyone into it, and I just did exactly what everyone else did, and I just jumped on the bandwagon with it, and then I was like, do you know what? Yeah, I've done this for a month. I'll just teach it. What a fucking moron. I literally, do you know what? It's funny. A video came up. It was like from years ago when I taught my first ever heels class, just to my students in my studio. I look at it, I'm just like, oh my God. I'm like, what is wrong with you? It looks it just looks horrible. It's just like, oh. But you learn as you go along. And it's funny, I'll probably look at my heels videos now in 5 years' time and think, oh God, why did I dance like that? It's just is what it is. And I can admit that at the time I probably did teach it a bit too early. Now, there are teachers within our industry who I've noticed all of a sudden are teaching Edgework, people that I've not really seen be doing it for very long. They're still doing heels, but it's never been something that they're very well known for. And I'm like, all of a sudden they're an Edgework expert. What are your thoughts on
well,
this?
first, before I answer that, I want to say that I can super relate to what you said before about jumping in too early. But in my case, just with teaching pole, I jumped into teaching pole too early as well, like most people back then, because literally there was so little pole in my city. There was barely anyone teaching it, and my teacher was like, I'm going on holiday, you're going to teach my classes while I'm gone. And I was like, okay. Yeah.
Oh God, it's just
things that happened back then. But yeah, I know that a lot of people, well, I don't know if a lot of people, because Edgework is not yet like such a big thing, but yeah, definitely there's more and more people jumping into teaching it. Some people, I think, do have an honest, like really passion or appreciation of Edgework, and they're just generally interested and they're trying to learn. Other people, I feel they're just doing it because they feel like it's becoming popular and maybe they just want the money. Exactly. They just want another thing that they can
Yes,
teach.
but I'm so glad that you said that because I didn't even want to mention it at first. I was like, I'm not going to mention the money because I want to see if you say about the money. And I just feel it's that whole thing. Like people think, do you know what, actually, I'm going to teach this because it's going to get me
Yeah.
some extra money from people that I can't get money from at the moment. But see, the correct way to do that would be to invite someone who does
Yeah.
do it to teach it. Do you know what I mean? Someone who considers themselves to be good at it to teach some edge work. Like, it's one of those things. Yeah, sure, I could take some lessons, maybe try and learn it quickly, and then maybe I'd get enough of it to be like, right, well, I could put a mini routine together and then I could teach that. But it's not really mastering an art, is it? Do you know what I mean? And I just feel like it then becomes very obvious why the
Yeah.
person is doing it. And are you seeing it quite a lot? Probably you see it more than I do because I've got a small amount of people that I do follow. But the person I did see, I remember thinking, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I've seen it. I'm not sure if like a lot, but yeah, I've seen it many times. And I mean, I'm not going to go around I don't think I can be deciding, oh, you know enough to teach it, you don't know enough to teach it. I mean, if people were to ask me their opinion, like, hey, honestly, do you think that I should be teaching this or not? Then maybe I would give my opinion. But if not, I mean, I think that kind of thing is really always up to the customers, really. You know, people
Yeah,
decide who they take classes with. And a lot of times, students don't know enough to be able to distinguish who actually knows what they're doing and is creating their own stuff and is creating their own technique,
yeah.
or who is just kind of copying or repeating. People don't know these things,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, that's more their issue. They need to figure it out as they go. Maybe when they take classes with a person, they'll think, oh, you know what, in the end, I don't think that they're explaining this really well, or I don't understand it, or it feels like I'm not safe. I'm going to hurt my ankles with this person. So maybe it's just something that they'll discover
Yeah.
by themselves. But yeah, I've definitely seen it.
But that is the problem, though, isn't it? The problem is that if you don't know any better, I actually talk about, even just with the pole industry in general, sometimes people will follow people in the pole industry and be like, God, the pole industry is so negative. I'm like, hold on, you've just been unlucky. You followed the wrong
Yeah.
people. Like, there are a lot of really positive people within the pole industry. You've just gotten unlucky and you've not known any different. Do you know what I mean? I feel like it's a similar sort of thing. If you go to this person and all of a sudden your ankles are hurting, you don't know this because they're doing bad technique, because you're the one supposed to be learning this stuff. So you don't know whether it's bad technique or not
Yeah.
because you're not the teacher. So it is a really difficult thing to establish as a
And
student,
even
for
worse, you might
sure.
end up
What
thinking like,
about
oh, edge work is painful, or edge work is going to hurt me. I'm just not going to do
right,
this technique ever again. And it wasn't even edge work that was hurting you. It was just that you didn't know how to do it well. Yeah.
bad technique? Yeah. What When you first started it, I assume you probably came, so we're talking about other people here, but I assume you came into similar sort of situations where other people who were doing edge work maybe felt like you started, or you were copying them, or you started your style too early. Did you have any problems with stuff like that? I assume you must have learned from someone. Who
No,
was it
no,
that you
truly,
learned
when
from?
I started being more interested in it, there's two people that I saw kind of do it. Rochelle Ribeiro was someone that was doing edgeworky things, although
Oh,
I
was it
think it's
Rochelle?
Rochelle.
Oh, you might be right, I think I've actually made this mistake before. Rochelle, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
Rochelle. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I
Yeah.
think it's Rochelle. Damn it.
It's okay.
Oops.
Well, she was already starting to do some edge work as well, although I feel like she has a pretty different style to mine. And also, Tia Jax uses edge work as well to kind of spice up her sequences. But I didn't really know Tia Jax back then too much. So it was more Rochelle that I saw. But when I started, I didn't really see someone in particular doing it. And I was like, let me learn from them. I just started playing with it. And I got really, really into it, started developing my own sorts of techniques and my own methodology to do it. So I didn't take the things that I teach or that I do, I didn't really take them from someone. I just kind of, I mean, it's going to sound like I'm just talking myself up here, but honestly, I do create the things that I use for my edge work. And now that it's becoming more popular and that there's more people doing it very often, there's always going to be some crossovers because you see people doing it and sometimes something inspires you. So if I'm inspired by someone else's movement, I'm always going to, tag them and acknowledge what I've seen in them. But mostly the things that I do, I just kind of came up with them when I was training. And so...
But sometimes you can even subconsciously, like when you're scrolling and you see something and you don't even really think about it, but it's ingrained it into your head. So then when you're doing your movements, you might go to that movement and be like, oh, this is really cool. And be like, oh, I've just created something new. But actually, you had already seen it and that's where the thought came from. And you just totally forgot you even saw it. But do you ever, and you must get this a lot, see, this is where I'm lucky and I never really get this problem. I tell people that I'm not a creator. I don't create new moves. I don't create like heel work, anything like that. Everything that I do has been inspired by someone because I'm a seer and a doer. I'm not a creator. I think it takes a really creative mind to do that. And I'm very happy to admit that. But when I see creators creating new stuff, I do sometimes see the clash that sometimes happened within other people coming saying, this isn't new. No, I did this in so-and-so year, or, actually what you're doing isn't anything new, honey, because I've done this before. And then they're like, well, show me. And they're like, oh, I don't have videos of it. It's like, well, it's that whole, I've seen it before. And I remember thinking like, ooh, that side of it does not look fun. Have you ever had
really, because when I started like really, really going into sharing just edge work on my feed, it wasn't something that I was seeing other people doing, aside from Rochelle, which I was seeing do her own style of edge work. I wasn't really seeing anyone else do it. It's not that I've never seen edge work before, because I know, for example, that strippers sometimes used a little bit of a sprinkle of edge work as well. So I'm not saying like I invented edge work at all, but other than seeing like a flex foot in a leg wave maybe or something like that, it's not something that I was seeing. So when I started doing it, no, I didn't have this problem. People didn't say that to me because I didn't see those people doing it. But then a while after, it kind of started becoming more popular. And then I don't know if there's people who maybe think in their head that I'm copying anything they do, but I've never had that, because I honestly do try to come up with original things. So it would be kind of hard to be accused of copying it when I have actually not seen that before. And again, when I am doing something that I've seen someone do, I'm always going to tag them and acknowledge it. So I haven't had that issue, thankfully. But again, I don't know what people are saying in private, so.
Of course. And who would you say is the original creator, like the original person to create this style?
I have no idea, because again, I know that strippers have used edge work before, so I don't know who came up with let me slide my foot on the floor in a flex position. Like, who came up with a fireman spin? I have no idea. Maybe you know that. I don't know that.
Right.
So
it was me. I created it. Not a clue. I think, didn't Pantera, she created Gemini and Scorpio, I think. Honestly, and that's the thing, like, if I was to pose and say Pantera created outside leg hang, inside leg hang, someone would be like, well, actually, no, because I knew a stripper who did it way before she did. Who knows? Who cares as well, really? It's just like, so long as we're all enjoying it. Hey?
Yeah, I have no idea who was the first person to do edge work. But I think I took it to a obsessive point of I'm just filming my feet and I'm just doing these really geometric things with my feet. So at least I think that I took it in a different direction. But yeah, I'm sure that people have done edge work, many, many people before me. So I definitely don't claim to having invented Edgework.
So who are the people, kind of wrapping up the Edgework talk, because I've got something else I want to talk to you about that I think is quite interesting. Wrapping up the Edgework talk, who would you say are your kind of top 4 or 5 people that you think people should go and check out? So obviously we have your page at Polefiction. Who else do you think? Rochelle Ribera is another person doing that sort of style. Who else would you say is a good one to go and check out for people who want to see what this style looks like?
Tia Jax really incorporates Edgework beautifully into like the rest of her flows, so she definitely uses that. And then also Carmine Black does quite a bit of Edgework, and Judy Gray, her Instagram is I think Coffee Pole. She also does a lot of Edgework things. So those are like the people that I enjoy watching the most.
Okay, and so we're going to talk about now choreographies, and I like asking this because it's such a controversial subject.
I can already see where this is going.
You will. Yeah, but I find it so interesting to talk about because you can get 2 very different point of views, and it's always funny because the opposite of the side tends to be the person who has never created a choreography in their life, and the other side tends to be from someone who creates most of the choreographies. So there is, as you know, this very big thing within our industry of people posting choreographies online, people copying them, no problem, tag the teacher if you're going to copy it. But then there's people copying it and teaching it to their students. Give me a generic kind of response as to what you think of it, and then I've got some more questions for you on the subject. But what do you think of people doing?
My quick answer is I hate it, don't do it.
Okay, perfect.
That's like the quick one.
Does it happen a lot to you?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you in if you are just someone who is doing pole as a hobby or a student or something, and you've seen a video of someone on Instagram and you're doing it for fun and you want to learn that choreo and, give credit obviously to the person and tag them and that kind of thing, that's fine if it's just for you to do for fun. I think now with the online classes being so widely available, it's also awesome if you can actually learn the choreo from the person, because it's our job at the end of the day. So it's a way of supporting people. But I think it's fine if you're just doing it for fun and for yourself. But teaching someone else's choreo without their permission is just not okay for me. It's one thing if you ask the person and that person is okay with it, because some people are fine with it. Some people are like, I don't care, you can do whatever you want to. Or other people are like, okay, if you came to my class and you paid me and I taught you the choreo, then now you can do whatever you want with it because you paid me. I, for example, don't do it that way. So I don't like people making money off of my choreos, because that's what's happening. And when people have done this, it's always been people who didn't even learn the choreo from me. They literally, if we're going to be like really practical and cold-hearted about it, you never gave me a single cent in your life and you are now making money off of my work. That's just not fair to me. Right. And, I put so much work into creating my choreographies. To see someone just take it. And when this has happened, it's been with zero recognition. They didn't even have the decency to tag me. And the person's going to find out. People always end up finding out. Someone's going to tag you. Someone's going to send it to you. And it's just really painful because...
Isn't this your choreography at Polefiction? Someone's going to do it.
It's
especially as well because they just love to stir the pot. But yeah, so people are just like, oh, I recognize that choreo. I'm going to tag Teresa in this and let her see. I had someone a little while ago come up to me in class and was like, oh, Dan, I taught my students your so-and-so choreo the other day. They loved it. And I was so on the spot and I was just like, oh, cool. And I just literally, I instantly was like, this is so not cool. And I was like, how do I deal with this situation right now? And I was like, I'm no way going to be like, oh, well, actually, no, you shouldn't be doing that. Because I literally just arrived at the studio and we were just about to start my class. And I remember just thinking, I can't say that. It's going to make me look like such a bitch. Like if I'm like, well, actually, you should be doing that. And I want you to pay me some money for that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I also have this thing with my choreos that I won't post them until I'm done with them. So when I'm done with them, like, you know how some people are like, oh, come and learn this choreo on Saturday. No, you ain't going to see it. You're not going to see it until you come to my class, because I just know that people will be like, well, I'm not going to come to your class. I'm just going to copy this video, because it sounds terrible, but I've done it before, and I've thought, oh, I'm not going to go to your class because I've just seen it and I don't like it, or I don't like the song. Not that I've thought, oh, I'm not going to go to it because I can just copy it, because generally online classes, what are they, £10? £15, maybe 20 if it's someone that's expensive. What's, £20? I'd rather just pay it and support that person.
Yeah.
However, it's different. I'm a teacher, and I understand how frustrating it is. I actually recently did an online class with Miss Philly, but I didn't buy her class. One of my friends bought her class, right? And there was 3 of us in training, and she was like, oh, should we do her class? So we did her class, and me and my friend were like, we should probably send her money for this, because we've taken a class, and it's not fair that 3 of us have taken this class when only one paid. So we just sent her money and just said, hey, I just said, what's your PayPal? I can't buy it online because the class has expired, it's gone. I was like, but give me your PayPal, I'll pay what she paid. I was like, how much is it? She said, oh, thank you so much. And she was really appreciative of it. But that should be really how it is. I think maybe I just appreciate that because I'm also a teacher, so I know how frustrating it is. It's a really tough one. Do you post your choreos before you teach it or after?
It depends, because sometimes I even make up a choreo and I didn't make it up specifically to teach it, and then I end up teaching it. So yeah, I try to not be like so strategic about it, thinking like, oh, I'm going to decide when to post it so that it's convenient. No, I just kind of post it whenever I feel like it. Sometimes it's before I've taught it, and I just kind of try to trust that people like my teaching enough that they will actually want to learn it from me instead of just copying it. But yeah, I mean, yours is definitely a more practical approach, but I'm never really exactly done with my choreos. Even if I've taught my choreo a million times and I don't plan to teach it again in the future, I'm still not okay with someone taking it and teaching it instead of me. So that wouldn't really apply to me. So yeah, I just honestly...
So... Okay, let me play. Sorry for interrupting you. Let me play a scenario. So you message someone, say, "Hey, I've just seen that you copied my choreo, and I'm really not happy with that because you taught my choreo, you've made money off it." And they reply to you and say, "Well, honey, you've posted it on a public forum. This is a public domain. Like everything that is on here, people are going to copy, whether they tag you or not. Like, what would your?" Because that's the one I get asked or told all the time. People are like, "Yeah, but you post it publicly. If you don't want people to copy your shit, don't post it." I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that.
I think I'm going to give an example right now that's just occurred to me literally as you were saying it. And this is going to be like a really extreme example. I'm not saying that this scenario is equivalent to my example, but it's shifting the blame to the victim instead of to the person that's actually doing the thing. Kind of like saying, well, you were wearing that, so how would you not get unwanted attention in the street and people catcalling you if you were wearing like very revealing clothing? It's the same thing. Like, well, you posted it. How can you expect me not to copy it? No, I mean, obviously I can't literally stop you from copying it, and people are going to do what they want to, but ethically, I just think it's not good. And I mean, at the end of the day, people are just going to decide for themselves if they want to be the person who's stealing someone's choreo and selling it and making money off of it, or if they want to instead learn the choreo from you or ask your permission, or just, if you really like the choreo that much, then maybe, I don't know, take certain like very small parts and very small things and then make your own choreo around it and create your own thing if you can, or pay someone who's okay with you teaching their choreo if you don't have the ability to make up your own choreo. Or maybe if you can't make those choreos, then just don't teach choreos. I don't know. But
no, it's true though. Like, yeah, if you can't make your own choreo, why are you teaching it? Like, but I like that idea because it's funny actually. Because I've had a teacher. I'm teaching at a studio soon, and I totally forgot to reply to her about it. But she'd said to me, she was like, "Have you got any old choreos that you'd be willing to sell to me so I could teach my students?" I was like, I guess so. I thought, yeah, probably got loads
Mm-hmm.
actually, because we teach online. I have so many of these videos saved. I just thought, yeah, I probably could sell them to her actually, like a bit of an extra rate, so that she can teach and make some
Yeah.
money. So that she basically wanted to run some. You know, we're going through a financial crisis, for fuck's sake. Like, you know, she wants to try and find some ways she can do some internal workshops in her studio, make a little bit of extra money. I was like, actually, yeah, I probably do, and I'll speak to her about it when I see her. But do you offer anything like that?
I don't do anything like that because, I mean, I actually think that's an amazing idea, and I really love that there's people who do that. But for me, my choreos are just so like my babies. I love them so much that I just can't really. I'm just that wouldn't feel so good to me personally, so I don't do that. Like what I would do, for example, and what I have done is I've made choreos for people, for example, to use in a competition or a performance. Like I can choreograph for
Right.
you if you want a specific choreo with a song, and then you can use it. But having someone sell or teach my chorus just doesn't feel good for me. But I do think that's a really good idea, and that people who are okay with that should definitely go ahead and do it, because not everyone can come up with their own choreos. And I know some people really like to dance choreos, and maybe their students would love to do those choreos with them. So if you can find someone
Right.
who's willing to do the work for you and you pay them for that, then just go for it. But yeah, not me.
Have you had any situations where, like you said, you've seen that someone's taught your choreo, and well, how do you react? Like, what do you actually do? What is the process? Do you message them and say, hey, like, I actually. Someone, you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. I'm not going to mention names because I don't want anyone trying to come for anyone or anything. But you know, there's someone who's quite active at talking about this subject, and someone actually copied one of my choreos once, and I found out about it through her because she noticed. And she messaged them and said, "Hey, you probably shouldn't copy his choreo. Like, you should be paying him to do that, whatever. Like, you know, to teach it." And the girl was like, "Well, but I paid to take his workshop." She said, "Yeah, but you haven't paid to teach it and make money off it. You paid to attend his class." And I was like, "Oh, I'm keeping out of this. I'm not getting involved." I just hate the confrontation, which is hilarious for me because you know how I do not shy away from confrontation. But things like that, I'm just a bit like, I don't want to upset anyone because they paid to come to my class, and I really appreciate them coming to my class. But at the same time, I was a bit like, yeah, I guess it's not ideal. I guess it's not ideal, but what can I do is kind of where I was at with it. And she kind of fought my corner for me. And then I actually taught at workshops just recently, and we were talking about the subject, and they said, they said, that same person has actually messaged us before. I was like, why? And they were like, well, we made a mistake and copied one of their choreos and taught it, and they just didn't know kind of what the rules were. And yeah, that person really went for them. And I don't know that I'd even have the guts to message them. Have you ever messaged anyone that's copied your choreos?
Not exactly. I did message someone. Well, there was a moment where I was talking about this topic in my stories, and someone messaged me about it with like a different point of view of how they think, or they thought that if they took your class as a student, then maybe it would be okay to make money off of it. And this person, English wasn't their first language, I think. So there was kind of like a language barrier, and her message wasn't super clear. So I thought that she was telling me that she had come to one of my workshops and that she had taught that choreo after. And I did reply like, well, I'm not okay with that. I think it wasn't right to do that, and you shouldn't have done it, and this is why I believe that. And then she was like, oh, no, I didn't do this to you. I've just had it happen with other people. Like, I've copied someone else's choreo, but it wasn't you. That was just a misunderstanding of the message. So technically, no, I've never had that conversation, because this one wasn't like, it was just a misunderstanding. But again, it's just like you. I'm really shy about some things, and I really struggle with confrontation as well. And it's something that I'm just working on in my personal life. So I think I'm also getting better at being able to talk about these things with people in the pole community as well. So I think that now if it happened to me, I think I might have the courage to actually reach out and be like, you know, you just literally copied my choreo and taught it. That's not okay. But when I've had it in the past, I didn't have the courage to do it. And now I just really regret it, because it gets to a point where...
What did you do at the time? Did you do anything?
I was just very angry on the inside. And the last person that I remember seeing literally teach my whole choreo, I got tagged by her student. Like, her student shared a video of learning the choreo in this person's class, and she tagged me. But the actual instructor never ever tagged me or messaged me or acknowledged me in any way. And this is...
Were they following you?
I don't even remember. This was a while ago. Oh. But this was a person who owns a studio in Spain. And I haven't been to the studio, but I know what studio it is. So my thing, I didn't have the courage to message her or anything, but I was like, you know what? You showed interest in having us for workshops once. Well, guess who's never going to go and teach workshops at your studio? Because I just don't agree with like your ethics. So that's what I do. I just, or what I've done in the past. What I would hope to do now is just be more straightforward about it and try to actually talk about it, because I think that that's just better for everyone. But in the past, it's just been more like, okay, well, now I know I kind of can't really trust this person. So I'm just not going to interact with this person.
The only thing that I'm intrigued to know, though, is that what will you get out of it? You know, let's say you do message them and say, hey, I noticed you've taught my choreo. Are you going to say to them, and to resolve this, I'd like you to pay me $200, or
I wouldn't even.
What's it going to resolve? Is it just to stop them from doing it again, or?
It's mostly,
right.
And because there's part of me, I want to believe that people aren't doing it. I know some people are probably doing it to take advantage of you, but mostly probably it's just because they didn't know that what they're doing isn't right. So maybe they didn't even realize that what they're doing to me feels bad. So maybe if I tell them, at least they'll be a little bit more educated on the fact that there's people who won't mind, but there's people who will mind, so that you should definitely always ask permission. So at least maybe it won't happen again with me or with someone else.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I think it's a good way to go. But it is I still find it's such a blurred subject, isn't it? And I think because we have two different groups of people, you've got me who's kind of in the middle, like, don't really like it, but it's happened, and I might mention it, I might not. I'm quite blasé, but I prefer people didn't. And then you've got people like you who feel quite strongly about it. But then you've got people like, I remember when Aliona Amber, actually, she was like, oh, I'm not going to be teaching heels anymore. She was like, feel free just to go through my thing and just teach any of my choreos.
Yeah,
and I was
remember.
Do you remember when she posted it? I was like, whoa, okay. And then she ended up coming back to pole, actually. So she's teaching pole again now. But I remember looking at that and thinking like, oh, and there's just people who are just so much more chilled about it, isn't there?
Yeah.
It just depends on the person, doesn't it? So,
and I do understand that it's a really hard thing, because like you said, the choreos are literally there for you to copy and steal. It's so easy. And I don't know if you could even do anything legally, because I've never looked into any of that, or like trademarking, copywriting things. I've never done anything like that. So I don't know if you can do anything about it. But
you probably could, but is it worth it?
I don't even think it's worth it. And I think it's
really not.
It's more of an ethics kind of thing, and just like, well, now you kind of know that this person is the kind of person that will do that. I don't know, it's your choice if you want to block them, but they can just as easily make a new account and continue doing it. So there's not really, I can't really do anything about it other than speak about it and educate people, or try to, like, educate people sounds really wrong, but at least talk about it and let people know that there's another point of view. And so maybe they won't do it in that way anymore. Who knows?
Yeah, fair enough. So what is coming up for you now? So what is coming up for you over the next sort of few months? Have you got any new projects or anything coming up? You're going to be in Argentina until September?
Yes. So I'm just here. I'm here for holidays, but I'm also kind of teaching some workshops and stuff. But other than that, I'm just, organizing workshops in different places, so anyone can always message me if they want me to go to their studio and visit. And I don't have like competition plans, because I'm not sure if retired from competing is the way to say it, but I don't have any plans to compete unless I radically change my mind. So I'm more into performances than competition in general. So I'm always open to people inviting me to perform in things. That would be amazing. And other than that, I'm just my classes in Madrid, my workshops that I teach around, and I have my online stuff as well. So I've actually launched like a new course that I launched just today.
It's funny. I think I literally just saw it. Is it the introduction to heel work or
Yeah,
something?
it's like a course
Yeah, I
for
saw
heels
it.
beginners. Yes, it's called
Yeah,
Healicious.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that
So,
because I don't really know what it's like. I don't teach anything for like beginners, that people just starting out with their heels and they don't know what they're doing with it. Do you know of anyone else doing stuff like that, or is that you the first?
I mean, I know there's classes, heels classes for beginners, like single classes in different online platforms. That's definitely a thing. But at least there's probably something out there, but I don't know of like a full-on course that's for heels for beginners. So that's kind of why I
Yeah.
decided to make it, because I thought, you know what, I don't think I've seen it before. Let's just do it.
No, I don't think I have, because I think even like you said about the beginners classes, I think the beginners classes, they're beginner level, but they're not teaching you this is how you walk in the
Yeah,
shoe,
like
this is how you
welcome to
body
heels.
wave, this is how you pivot, and the very, very basics. You're kind of just expected
Yeah.
just to pick it up, and yeah, it's a really great idea. So well done, and for anyone
Oh,
who's
thank
listening,
you.
go and check that out.
Yeah.
So tell us how people can find you. At Polefiction is your Instagram. What's your website? How can they find out about all the stuff that you sell online?
Yeah, so Polefiction is my Instagram, which is where I like share the videos and the stuff. And in the link there, you can super easily access my website, my tutorials, my courses, my newsletter, my all of my stuff. But my website is polefictiondance.com. And you can also see like upcoming workshops and class schedules for anyone who's in Madrid and for the regular classes. You can see my online things, you can see my tutorials. Also, like there's an intensive that I also do in Spain, which is called the Sexy Immersion, which I will probably be hosting during the autumn, winter in a couple of months. So that's also available to look at on my website there, same as my
That's
privates and my
cool.
Edgework courses. So it's all on polefictiondance.com.
Nice. Well, make sure you will go and check out Teresa's stuff because she is awesome. And if you're wondering what Edgework is and you listened the whole way through and you still haven't looked it up, go and look up. I assume, can they just look up like PD
Yeah,
Edgework? Will that come up?
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
PD Edgework
hashtag
or just
PD
hashtag
Edgework.
Edgework. Both things are full of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, go and check it out. Well, thank you so much for coming on and joining me. I really appreciate talking to you about all these weird and wonderful things. And thank you so much. So hopefully we'll
Thank
have
you
to have
for
you back on again
inviting me.
sometime.
Yes, I really love chatting with you, Dan. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Teresa. Bye.
Bye bye.
Hey you, thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you got something from it. And we're running a competition, so if you enjoyed the program, please head to whichever platform you're listening to this on, give us a cheeky 5-star review and make sure you screenshot it. Send me a DM, let me know that you've done it, and you're going to be entered into a draw to win a whole bunch of goodies from my Pole store. So don't forget, give us a 5-star review, screenshot it, send it over to me, and you could win some free shit. Can't wait to see your messages. Thanks for listening. Bye.
That was all the tea that you can get this week.